Welcome to week 6 in our series of 4 tables. Tonight we are on the second table, which is the table of grow. The first table was the table of love. Now we're on the table of grow. Tonight's lesson is on the high cost of disconnection. Since the plague made its way through Europe, modern society has feared epidemics and pandemics with their ferocious power to destroy populations. From influenza to Ebola, efforts have been made to stop the spread of these diseases. Even recently with COVID-19, it destroyed many lives. Cures have been sought, vaccinations have been disseminated, and even safeguards have been implemented. But there's one disease that has largely gone unnoticed in America. The disease has different names. It can be called isolation, loneliness, disconnection. But never in our history have people been more isolated, more lonely, and more disconnected than in this day in which we live. We live in an ever-changing world. There has been immense changes in the past generation, and the rate of change seems to almost be increasing. When we look at some of these changes in our world, the first change is families are dissolving. I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable who was born or raised in a single family home. I'm not doing that. And I don't even want to put anybody on a guilt trip who has suffered from an unfortunate marriage or a family situation. Our past is just that. It's our past. And what happened to us yesterday is not an accurate prediction of what I am today or what I will be tomorrow. It's important to realize that God Himself performed the first ceremony of marriage to Adam and Eve. God is interested in every marriage, every child, and every family. And through it all, Satan is attacking marriage and attacking the family. Another thing that is changing in our world is metro migration. Since World War I, North Americans have been, they mainly lived in rural settings, rural environments. A century ago, about 80% of America lived in the rural area. But now, over 80% of people in America live in urban areas. What does this look like? Urbanization brings all kinds of changes to friendships and also to family structures. Disconnected from their roots, people are now living in a 24/7 world with little time for people. Our world is filled with more time constraints, greater peer pressure, and high stress levels. People are living longer, but they're working longer too. And fatigue and loneliness are constant companions in our lives. Another thing that is changing is false intimacy. It's one of the paradoxes of the modern age. We are more connected than ever, but we're more disconnected at the same time. A person with a strong social media presence, they can say they have many friends, but that same person would be hard-pressed to find many of those friends at their side when they need them. There's faux friendships. They are more common than ever. Classic friendships, those built upon a mutual edification and accountability, those have largely been lost in just one generation. We're closer than ever, but we're more disconnected as well. The enemy delights in isolation, just as the wolf would triumph when he sees a sheep separated from the herd. Another changing thing in our society is misguided individualism. We've always admired rugged individualism that seeks its own way to express itself. They're an individual. They're unique. God has made us as individuals, and we do have many unique qualities. Yet when individualism tends many times to lead towards isolation, then we're in trouble. There's power when people unite together behind one cause, and there's power when that happens because it's something about getting together. but there's also weakness that comes when people try to go it alone. So then there's also something that is changing, and that is a communication void. People talk a lot. They talk a lot, but there's so little communication. Each day we are bombarded by advertisements and sales messages and friends requests and emails and text and phone calls and so on and so forth. Yet so little of the information that is transmitted is true communication. Rather, it's a wealth of chatter that really doesn't matter. Have you ever texted with somebody and later in the day you tell somebody else, oh, I talked to so-and-so today? But really, you just text with them. Texting can be harsh as well, and real communication is always better. It's better to pick up the phone and call somebody and talk it out. Attention spans have never been shorter than they are now. People today, I've seen young people, they watch TV, they do their homework, they're playing a video game and talking on the phone all at the same time. And so attention spans are getting shorter. And then there is also community is withering. After World War II, the American front porch became a relic of yesteryear. I think about even in my own home, I have a very small front porch, but I have a huge back deck. I have a fire pit in my backyard, but it's not in the front yard. My porch is very small. But what we see when we enter subdivisions now, we direct our gaze straight ahead. We pay little attention to what's happening around us. We drive self-contained cars past remote-controlled garage doors. And if we do exit, we're going out the back. And we're sitting on our back deck rather than sitting on the front porch. We're wanting privacy rather than wanting to have friendship. One of the qualities of older homes was they would have a parlor near the front door. This is where people entertain neighbors and friends who would come calling, and parlors have disappeared from our homes. I've been in a lot of homes in the last 5 years, and I don't even know that I've went into one home that had a parlor when you came in the front door. Parlors have disappeared. We simply don't entertain people like this any longer. And most certainly, we don't visit anybody if we don't have an invitation. But we must return to community. The first church, the Bible tells us in Acts 2, the first church continued in fellowship. That word is koinonia in the Greek. It means fellowship, association, community, communion, and joint participation. People who are bound together for a common purpose experience the closeness that is described in Acts chapter 2. The first church was born when 120 believers gathered together and they experienced the outpouring of the Spirit. But we must remain together with people who share our own spiritual DNA. Our cooperative efforts are magnified when we remain together in fellowship. It's not that we're a cult. We don't just gather just us, because we do go out into the world and we spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. But you must have those times where you come together with like-minded believers and you fellowship together, because that is where you draw strength. In July 2002, the world eyes were on Somerset, Pennsylvania, where 9 miners were trapped in a mine. They had accidentally tunneled into an unmapped shaft filled with water that was resulting in their path to escape being severed. When the water kept rising, above-ground teams planned how to rescue these men if they were still alive. Pumps were set up to lower the water levels. A 6-inch bore was drilled in to bring in air so that they were trapped and they couldn't breathe, so they brought air from the outside. And also it was to verify if they were still alive. Finally, a 30-inch bore was drilled so that they could haul the miners up, and one by one they brought them up. Their combined efforts over a 77-hour period would prove worthwhile, and all 9 miners survived. But what was interesting, below ground, was the behavior of the miners. They made a decision that they were going to live or die as a group. They tied themselves together so that if they drowned, all of their bodies would remain together. Over the next few days, as the temperatures plunged, hypothermia set in, these rugged men put their arms around each other to stay warm, and they survived together, and not one miner was lost. We too will survive, but only when we make a similar commitment to one another. We are better together.